Hey guys, and welcome to this video where I'll be talking about SG and my place for it in the future. Or in general, like where I think some of the pros has gone wrong with it. I think I'll just straight out come with a pro-con list and try to go through all the lists, or all the bullet points I have, and then a bit of talking about it. So yeah, the first con I have is movement speed. Moving slower with the SG does make it for a bit slow-paced gun. It makes you a bit of an easier target when it comes down to like entry and stuff like that. Not that much, but it's when you compare to an AK, you're not as you don't have the same mobility, and it's a con definitely, and it's something you have to work around, or at least have in mind when you play the SG. So the second con is the scope, that you need to scope in most fights, because it does give you an extra, like, less recoil, more accuracy, stuff like that, and it really does the difference for the SG. So you need to get into the habit of scoping quickly and using the scope, even though it looks stupid and you lose some overview on the situation, and there can be especially some situations where you're holding angles. It becomes very, very bothersome when you're holding an angle, but you need to have some awareness on like a different spot as well. That's a bit issue because a lot of the circle that the scope closes out, it's just very hard to see what's going on around it. So yeah, that's definitely it's an issue with the scope. So then we have the issue with the COD gun name, the fact that most people will call you the world's biggest newbie if you play the SG, because damage from 1.6. We all had that one friend who pretended like he was God's gift to CSGO, and then you talked a bit into details, and he accidentally dropped it that he practically only played SG and AUG, and from that point on, you could never trust him again, because whatever he would say was bullshit, and you knew that SG and AUG had no place in 1.6. It was more expensive, worse, the scope didn't do shit. It was all around stupidity to buy that gun. CSGO, different matter. CSGO from the start has been very much about making all the guns usable in some way or form, and I'm pretty sure they'll continue down that path, and SG is a very underutilized gun, and there's some upsides that I don't understand why the pros aren't utilizing more, but we'll get to that. And then we have the fourth thing, and it's a bad understanding of SG. The bad understanding of the SG is that, especially in pro scenes, CS, from coach's point of view, when you play top tier pucks and stuff like that, if somebody calls a strategy or has a strategy in mind and you have an SG, he acts like you have an AK. He would call the strategy like, oh dude, okay, we have three AKs, SG and AVP, but in reality he thinks that we have 4 AKs and AVP, and the SG is closer in the range of an AVP. It's faster than an AVP, I'll give him that, but trying to rush aside with an SG and you pretty much just sticking it up your own bum. It's stupid, and you shouldn't do that. So people not understanding that the SG is closer to an AWP, but it's not an AWP, but understand it. So the first of the pros is 100% first bullet accuracy, and it's probably the most talked about positive argument for playing SG. It is that the first bullet you shoot, whether it's scoped and unscoped, goes 100% where you cross areas, not that RNG bullshit. And it's just, it makes it for a really good entry. If you have a good idea of where your opponent's gonna play next round, pre-fire that location is just very satisfying, and it's a very reliable gun, and based on that alone, the SG should have some potential as an actual gun in the game, because I just think that there's no more RNG, there's no more bad AK day and my luck wasn't with me. It's 100% accurate. It's really good. But underutilized in that sense. All right, so second good thing. Need to breathe. Good spray. It has an insanely easy spray if you first learn it. Especially all of the pros I've seen picked it up the first time they tried it, and they tried to spray with it, and it went left, right, and center, and they didn't understand what went on. No, of course you don't know how this spray is when you've never tried it, and it's not like the AK or the M4 where you just pull it down. It goes down and to the left, and if you just pull down, well, yeah. Tough luck, sonny boy. It goes straight up to the right and will not hit your target. Try and use it. Try to learn. I'm pretty sure the first time you picked up an ARP, you didn't instantly wreck 17,000 people and just be like, oh, this is quite easy. It takes time to practice. And I don't think that's anybody that puts the amount of times into SG in the top tier CSGO. And I think it deserves that. I think it has a spot for that. And based on the good spray and the first bullet accuracy alone, it has some interesting point of view to it. All right. Next positive thing is the scope. Even though I also said that it's a bad thing, you do gain that extra range with the SG because of the scope. It makes it easier to make those long range entry shots with a rifle. Like, that's where we're from. This is a rifle. And it's really good at entering because of the scope. It's cheaper than an ARP. Like, if you have an ARP and you try to make him entry, it's very expensive. So if you lose that player with the SG, it's a lot of money invested into the round, where the SG is cheap. So yeah, I just think that the combination of it all makes for a very... It's not... I would never suggest a team to go 5 SGs. That would be bad. That would be mentally bad. But if you look at the SG in comparison to an ARP, where I do think that it's... that's nice. It is definitely more like an ARP than it's an AK. It can do some of the AK things where it's really like, it's a flexible gun, and it's really good to hold some post-plan situations where it's just, I can't really see the downside too much. It's $300 more than an AK, but it has so many extra features to it, and I'm not necessarily... In the time I've been playing SG, there's been a lot of going on in my life. I've had another kid. I have 2 kids. I've not been able to play like my old self. So I think that even what I bring to the SG, the potential for the SG is phenomenal. And I don't think that anybody understands fully how much you can use the SG. And I do think that if it first gets going, I think that Valve has to nerf it. Like, there are things with it that is just simply too strong, in my opinion. But yeah, that's pretty much the pros and the cons. And it's mind-boggling to think that you have so many people trying to reinvent the wheel, and they have these very limited tools at hand, and not a single team yet has even considered, let's try the SG a bit more. I just don't understand why that there's that hate on it from all point of views. Like, you see JWs and short off in drop down in cobblestone, and that becomes meta like super quickly. Only he can do it though, but it's very interesting, and I think that SG is definitely has a more valid spot than the short off, but sort of. But yeah, that's my rambling about the SG for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a bit about it. And I hope that you, next time you see an SG, rather than call it cut gun, you just say like sloppy seconds or whatever. See you guys around. Bye.